Before we get started, please take the time to like, add, and subscribe to our pages on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and iTunes. Also, please leave us a review. We can wander our way over, because this is Wandering Ways.
What's Bigfoot possibility?
Clink.
Clink. What's up, everybody? It is another Wandering Ways episode. It's your boy, the Reverend Marcus, and with, as per usual, the only guy that I know that cracks open a fresh soda this early in the morning. It is Ranger Zach. Ranger Zach, how you doing?
I'm good. Well, I looked around the cabin, there's no water. And I have this Coke from like last night, and I'm like, my throat and stuff is just like, I'm just like dry. So I'm like, yes, 8:40 in the morning. We're going to go with Coca-Cola. Breakfast of champions.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is. So, anyways, dude, how you been?
Good. I am good. I'm up here at Sealy right now, if you can't tell. The key ring is in the background here. That's the dead giveaway, or the blinds. Mark might recognize the blinds, but we actually we're up here. Josh wanted to come up here. We're on our way back to Oregon. We're literally going to just spend half a day here, but we actually ended up freaking spending like two and a half or 2 full days. We got up here. What's today? Friday. We got up here on Wednesday, kind of afternoon. We were here all day yesterday, and then we're going to leave today. And yesterday we were out on the water. We were fishing. The 2 beaver dams on Sealy Lake, the 2 by the boat ramp there, the small one and then the really big one. So the small one, I was like watching it, and I was sitting there. And I was like, oh shit, like the beavers are coming out, like you could see them. And then all of a sudden, a couple of them jump up onto the dam. And I'm like, those aren't beavers. Those are river otters. So there was just like a pack of river otters. They like jumped up on this beaver dam, checked it out. Then they jumped back in the water. And they basically took the lily pads down to the bridge. And we're just like swimming in the lily pad, and like they would get up because they noticed me, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna get close to them and see them up close. And like they looked up, and you could hear them breathe and like talk to each other, like, we're not going that way. And they really, like, once they all did like this thing where they all came up with their heads and they looked at me, and like the one made the noise. And like they went under the swim area at the camp there, all the way to the lily pads, like by that other beaver dam. And I was like, holy shit. So it's like, yeah, you told them, like, yeah, let's get away from these guys.
Yeah, they were totally like, we don't like this guy. We don't like what the vibe he's putting off. So let's just swim way underwater so he can't catch us.
And I was totally for it. Like I get it, but like what I don't get is, so the other day I really had to pee. Okay. So I'm like, I'm just going to go outside, we're in the woods, whatever. Right. So I'm sitting there going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden this chipmunk runs out from like underneath, like whatever it was underneath. And it just stops and it watches me pee, like straight up stares me down as I'm taking a pee. Like, oh, I've never seen a human do one of this before. Like, it was just so like, excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of funny. I mean, I think that's probably the difference between a chipmunk that's around people more versus the river otters that are like, no, we don't like these guys. Like, we're bouncing.
Well, did you see about a month ago or a couple weeks ago down by West Yellowstone, down by Ennis, Montana, they were on the Jefferson River, or one of those that make up the 3 forks there, Jefferson or the Gallatin, and there was some people like on paddle boards, and they were attacked by a school of river otters, like a herd of them, just fucking like gang rat. Like the people were like, we weren't even trying to take pictures. They just like said, nah, we're going after the people. Like everyone's like, you don't need to go in their land. And the people are like, no, we didn't. Like they attacked us. It was straight up.
Damn, that's kind of funny. I mean, that sucks. I mean, nature's fighting back. Killer whales are fighting back.
Right?
River otters are fighting back. Nature, I guess, has decided that it is. They had a meeting of some sort, and they were like, you know what? We're done with this shit. Let's fucking go at them.
Yeah, they're like, we gave them their chance, pandemic to pandemic, the
Yeah.
Spanish flu to COVID, and then now we're just taking over. Because if you look at the numbers, pre 1920s, that wildlife was there.
Yeah. So they're just they just collectively they're like, all right, let's fuck some shit up. Which I can't say I blame them, or I don't blame them, you know?
Right? I'm like I'm kind of for it. Like that was not to lie, that was in my head when I was looking up those rivers otters. Like, they do get aggressive. Like, if this guy wants to come over here and hit me and attack me, I was like, I started moving my canoe into a more defensive position, the kayak into a more defensive position, like just in case. Cause like when they dove down, they all went down. And I was like, oh, I can't keep an eye on you. Because you're just like, at first you could see them, they look like kind of like snakes, where it's like, okay, there's that one's back, the way they like slither. um but they're cute, they're fun to watch. I'm glad I got to see a lot of wildlife up here in Sealy. Always a good time.
Yeah, I bet, especially about probably about this time, there's a little bit more. Well, I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe are there as many people up in Sealy, or is it starting to die down?
Oh, it's dead. I mean, really, the only like you need to come up here not on the 4th of July when you come over here next, just because it is like a whole different world. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as busy,
Yeah.
there's not people. Like, we had like the whole lake basically to ourselves, and we were on the water at 3 yesterday.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
yeah. So it definitely had that kind of vibe. I mean, school started in Montana, so
That's what I was curious because once school starts, like everything dies down.
and really, yeah, it does, and it's kind of interesting. We've had that chat, and I've had that chat with Matt and a lot of other people, where it seems like the seasons have almost shifted, or the weather has almost shifted a month. Like, June is a little more wet and springy. September's starting to become more summery. Um, it's just kind of that, like it's interesting. So, like, as you say that, like, people are back in school, but it's like, fuck, I want to be up here in September. I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that it's changing for the most, but I mean, growing up, I always the nicest month of the year was like September. It was always sunny. It wasn't crazy hot. It was just like it wasn't cold either. It was the best weather was like the month of September.
Yeah, but
And
that's Oregon, right? Because you guys
yeah.
get like rain. I remember going to school there and being like, rain hits like October, and being like, basically October to May can suck ass.
Yeah, that's usually about the rain, the time of the rain. Although um I don't know. I'm trying to think. October does normally bring the rain. I mean, we just got rain last night, which we needed because it's on
Yeah.
fire everywhere down here. So, um, I mean, that's the road to Humboldt is that takes you Grants Pass to like Crescent City there. That's been closed for like a month because of a fire. Like that weekend, I was planning to go to Humboldt. The road
Yeah.
closed down like 2 days before it. So, and it's still been
Well,
closed.
well, that's when that fire blew up. Was that weekend? It got like, it went from like a small fire to like this big old guy.
Yeah, well, it's like merged. There's there's
Oh,
like if you go
fuck.
on to airnow.gov and just look at that, you'll see the little fire symbol like all down there. But if you like hover over it, it'll tell you the boundaries of like each fire. And there's so much overlap between them that they're all like they've just all kind of merged into now one giant fire. And last time I heard it was only like maybe 7 or 10% contained. So it's
Oh,
like,
they
and
got
I
some
get
time.
why it's 7, 10%. It's tough to get equipment
Mhm.
and move around in that area. So, and also there's not as many people in that area. So it's not going to be as big of a priority as some.
Well, in some areas, I mean, we've had that discussion before, like up in Alaska or even like some of the places here in Montana. They'll let them burn those more
Yeah.
remote ones if they're not going to hurt structures or anything like that, because that is natural. It is
Mm,
needed. Um,
yeah. And so I think there's a combination of it being difficult and them letting it burn. That's why this fire's been the way it is. I mean, it sucks because our air quality outside like the last 3 days has been 250 plus. It looks like freaking Armageddon. Like you're like, God
right.
damn, this, I'm pretty sure this is what the apocalypse is gonna look like when it's done. Like
Oh,
it's some wild. And then like you see blue sky and you're like, oh yeah, I remember what that used to look like.
yeah. Right. It's almost like, holy crap, this is weird. Um, no, I totally get your feeling because I remember when behind Sealy was burning, those mountains, and just like all those little dirt roads that go back into the mountains, all the like to the neighborhoods and stuff, like they were just manned with that Hummer and that one big
Hmm.
spotlight, like that spotlight generator thing, and it's like the eerie smoke, like you're saying. It's like you pull into town, it's 5 o'clock at night, but it's just dark because the fire smoke,
Yeah.
and they're just sitting there like army military people running the post, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like what are we getting into here?
Yeah, and it's like a weird color, because you still have the sun coming down and hitting like the smoke. So it just creates like this weird kind of like dark grayish orangish kind of color everywhere. And so like legitimately I think every like apocalypse Armageddon movie, like that's the scenery that they go for in those movies.
But I guess that makes sense to a way because, like, if you think about it, like that time period, you're going to have like buildings burning, you're going to have wildfires burn because no one's taking care of them because they're all focused
Yeah.
on themselves. So it's like, oh, you don't go into Western Montana, and it's all on fire all the time, or you don't go
Yeah.
down to Northern California.
No, for sure. I mean, it's wild. I mean, it sucks because you can't go outside.
Yeah.
We had the first day it got to like the air quality got to like 110, which is still not great, 110. But like we're outside and we're like, God, this air is fantastic. Like you can actually breathe. But then like you look and you're like, oh, that's just because this is the best it's been in like a week.
I remember because Missoula gets very similar to like Ashland, kind of had that valley, the way the smoke fills up in it. And it was that first college football kickoff game, that week 0 or whatever they call it. It was Montana and North Dakota State when North Dakota State was kind of winning all its national championships. And we actually beat them that week 1 in the smoke. And I was like, this is the game college game day needs to be at. You have North Dakota State, Montana, at the University of Montana, sold out crowd. You couldn't see across, we're in the student section. You couldn't see across the field. That's how smoky it was. And they're like, yeah, let's play a football game.
That's actually surprising that they were like, let's play. Like
No,
that AQI's got to be way too high at that point.
I think that was kind of one of those last few games that they've allowed because, like, since then they've actually have canceled games. I want to say,
Mm.
but
Well,
also like,
where it gets tricky for those bigger schools is they got TV money.
yeah,
There's times like I've watched on TV like I think San Jose State one year had like a game that was like 300 AQI, but it's like they're on TV, gotta keep the game.
yeah, someone paid some money for it.
Yeah, ESPN doesn't want to lose that TV spot. They don't want to run a rerun of last year's Holiday Bowl or whatever.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. It's crazy, but it's part. I mean, we figured it out. I mean, Fire's been with us forever. I think we talked to Ray. That was a good interview actually about fires, wildland fires, and the natives, and kind of how that's been a historical thing. The Blackfeet name comes from walking on the embers of the fields, the Blackfeet.
Hmm.
So it's kind of cool to experience the fires in these fire country in the Northwest, and even the grasslands during the wildfire years is kind of cool, because it's that time of year. I mean, it's part of nature, it's part of life. It's not a surprise. You know what I mean? Like I love how everyone, oh, the world's on fire, and I get it. Like Hawaii burned, that does suck because that's like an island, so it's like you can't go anywhere, and a lot of people died, and it's one of the most tragic things to happen ever there. but it's part of life. And especially living out west, it's a part of life. So it's not the end of the world. There's no apocalypse. The blue skies will come, as he said.
Yeah, no, they will. And I mean, we're not here today to talk all about fire. No, we are here to talk about the state of Montana, though. We've talked a little bit about it. We've talked about, I mean, you're up in Sealy. I'm pretty sure you've hit probably something that classifies um, under our classification for state parks. We're continuing that state park series. We're just hopping around states, so we're going with the good old state of Montana today. State park action. So I mean, you're kind of our Montana expert here at the Wandering Ways crew. Any start offs with the old state parks?
Well, like you said, I've been through it. I've seen it. I've been around it. Of the 55 state parks that Montana has, so there's 55 here. They're doing some construction on it, and we sat there probably for a good 35 to 40 minutes in construction. But it's a good kind of construction because it has to deal with the water drainage and how the water drains off the mountains and into this lake. And it was Salmon Lake State Park. If you go to our social channel, if you go to the Rougarou, I'm sure there's some videos of Salmon Lake and the yellow boat. You can see what it may look like. It's probably one of my favorite state parks because it has some of the nicest boat ramps. A lot of the state parks have nice boat ramps if you're an avid boater. But like to launch my boat. So like we're talking about fishing on Sealy. Well, Sealy's dirt ramps. You got to know how to kind of handle those and do those where it's like, this is a nice concrete ramp with the like composite boat docks with slips to pull the boat in. And you see that a lot at these state parks because there's good money that's thrown into our state parks. We take good care of them. And we enjoy them. So that's kind of one of the ones that I just was in, you could argue, just around, sitting there in the construction zone as they redo the highway that drives around the lake. But up the road from it, you also have Placid Lake State Park, and you've actually used the showers at Placid Lake State Park.
I have. I mean, quality shower, you got to pay for them. It's
Yeah.
it's not which I mean, that's fine. That's usual kind of par for the course for a lot of these places when they're real public like that. So it's a good quality state park. I mean, anytime you have showers at a state park, you're on the assumption that this is one that they put a lot of money and effort into. So it's probably going to be on the nicer side of things. And sometimes it's just nice to get that shower. You need that shower and take it while you can, you know. And it was a good shower. I mean, wasn't a bad, I've been in worse showers.
Yeah, in Lingle, Wyoming. Those murder scenes, right? Where like you go into the showers and get murdered. That was Lingle. That was the bathroom at Lingle.
Yeah, that campsite in Lingle. Yeah, I mean the whole experience in Lingle, Wyoming was it was interesting for sure. But that yeah, you've definitely like seen that in multiple that scene or that like that what is it? Whatever it is in movies. You've seen that setup and you're like, all right, there's definitely like something chained up somewhere in here.
Yeah. Yeah. I found a list here of all the state, actually has all the state parks, national recreation trails, areas, wildlife refuges, monuments, historic sites, etc. here in the state of Montana. It has all the state parks. So I'm just going to list them all. You have Ackley Lake State Park, which I have fished. Anaconda Smelter Stack State Park, which actually I believe is now a National Historic Area. That's that big smelter there in Anaconda. You have Bannock State Park. You have Beaverhead Rock State Park. You have Beaver Tail Hill State Park. You have Black Sandy State Park, Brush Lake State Park, Chief Plentycoo State Park, which I actually was able to work at for 2 days. while I was working at Pompey's Pillar, we did like a ranger exchange, and Chief Pleniku learned about him and what he did for the Crow people. He had the vision of the cows. He went up and had his like medicine vision up in the mountains, and had the vision of the cows or the buffalo going away on the prairie, and then cows emerging. The same way he saw like teepees and houses emerge on the prairie. And like he never slept in his bed. They built him a house down there and kind of gave him his land on the Crow reservation, but he actually kept his teepee outside his house and slept in it till he was like 80 some years old. Till he was like in his last final years. It's kind of one of those underrated state parks. I want to say the day I worked there, 5 people showed up. But then in September, they have a nice buffalo feed. You can drive down there, and they actually cook it in the mound. So they dig a dirt mound and cook the buffalo in it with the hot rocks on top. And it was good buffalo.
Yeah, I think I remember you talking about going to that. I think you went with Matt, didn't you?
Yeah, Matt actually drove over from Bozeman and met me there because they asked me to come down and help volunteer and work. So I was in my little BLM outfit, moving around looking like Park Ranger Zach. Well, I was Park Ranger Zach.
Yeah, exactly. But
you also got Clark's Lookout State Park, Cooney Reservoir State Park, which is the Rock Creek that was dammed up, but it's about an hour away from Billings. Did a lot of fishing there growing up, night fishing. Good. There's camping there. Council Grove, you have the First Peoples Buffalo Jump State Park, which that's over by Bozeman there, and that's where they would the natives would run the buffalo off the cliffs and harvest them. If you're building a teepee, you need 20 hides. Well, how do you kill 20 bison? Run them off the hill. And it's kind of cool. They would actually put out like rocks and stuff to make it look like a runway, so that they would know, like, okay, start funneling them, like get it going.
Yeah.
Flathead Lake has 3 state parks on it. You have the Big Arm unit, the West Shore unit, the Yellow Bay unit. You drive by this one on I-90 all the time. The Frenchtown Pond State Park, right off the interstate. This is one that I think. Oh no, this is a different. I'm thinking of Garnett. This is Granite Ghost Town State Park, and there's plenty of ghost towns in the state of Montana. Definitely worth checking out. Hell Creek State Park. Definitely, it's another one of those remote ones in eastern Montana. It's where the boat ramp and the boat marina is actually run by the tribe, the Little Shell tribe. Gerald did a good job of getting that set up so that the tribe can take control of that and run the facilities there at Hell Creek. You have Lake Mary Ronan State Park, Lewis and Clark Caverns State Park, and there's some cool caves and caverns, kind of right there in the Three Forks area. Lone Pine State Park, Madison Buffalo Jump State Park, Medicine Rock State Park, Missouri River Headwaters State Park. That's where all the 3 river, the Jefferson, the Gallatin, and the other one flow into the creek, the Missouri River right there in Three Forks. Good fishing. Parker Homestead State Park, Pierogi Island State Park, Rosebud Battlefield State Park, Sluice, it's spelled like juice, but SL, Sluice Boxes State Park, Spring Meadow State Park, Tongue River Reservoir, that's where I caught that big pike. It's down in eastern Montana. Traveler's Rest, that's there by Lolo. Whitefish Lake State Park, Elkhorn State Park, Fish Creek State Park. Flathead Lake has a couple more, Finley Point and Wild Horse Island. You have Fort Owen, Giant Springs, Gray Cliff Prairie Dog Town State Park. That's just a road stop off in eastern Montana there by Gray Cliff. You just pull over and just a bunch of prairie dogs. They fenced up basically. Called it a state park.
I've seen that drive-in. I've seen that drive-in before.
You just stop. Just a little fence off the interstate. Lake Elmo, which is in Billings. It's just a kind of like a pond, basically. That's actually where FWP has one of their offices, the Billings district. Lee Mason, Logan State, Lost Creek, Makoshika, which they say is the Badlands of Montana, way out there on the eastern end. Milltown State Park, which is right there kind of in Bonner when you're coming into Missoula from Sealy. Painted Rock State Park, which I heard is amazing. Pictograph Caves, which is right there in Billings. That's where they have the cave drawings. It's really freaking cool. Placid Lake, where you showered, Salmon Lake, just down the road. Smith River, which is protected. It's a really good river here in Montana. Thompson Falls, Tower Rock, and then Wayfarer State Park. And that is all 55.
Yeah, the one thing I kind of like about is there's a variety of different stuff that you can see. So when you are going and like checking out, if you're in the state of Montana, want to check out their state parks, you can get quite from the caves to a lake to kind of a mountaintop to prairie dogs on the side of the road, so that's kind of a perk. It's kind of nice when you're as big of a state land-wise as Montana is. You can really have a variety of things, and where it is in the Rockies, there's a lot there. So I mean, you can really kind of pick and choose a lot of historical stuff in there. I mean, Montana thinks everything is historical. So, almost everything's probably some sort of historical thing there, but there are some actual historical things there as well. Because I mean, Lewis and Clark went through that area, so that's worth a gander as anyway in itself.
You have so many parks dedicated just to their trail and where they were, like Travelers Rest. You have, I mean, Pompey's Pillar, I think at one point was a state park, and that's how it got to the BLM. It changed hands a bunch of times. But I do find, you say how big it is, and you talk
Yeah.
about Oregon had more state parks. It had 100 and some, whereas
Yeah.
Montana only has 55. But looking at that page I was on, and I just Googled state parks, and actually stateparks.com is what pulled up and had that list. I clicked on Montana, and I had the Montana list, and it had even like the national forest, the wildlife, like I was saying. But you can actually click on each park, like you're saying, and see what it's about, see what it has, see, the park's at an elevation of 3,615 feet, and it has 65 acres. Oh, it has campgrounds. Heck, this one has 2 teepees that are available for rent. So if you want to be a culture vulture and stay in a teepee, that's you go ahead.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. The website I found for the Montana State Parks, which is just fwp.mt.gov,
The main one.
it's got a map on it, and I'm actually going to pull it up because I think it's worth looking at it
I'm sure
for everyone.
FWP.
But I mean, you can see where all the state parks are on this, which is a lot of Western Montana. So which kind of makes sense. When you get out east, there's not a lot that changes out there. So
No,
it's
and you
just
get into what you get into kind of, if you were to draw a line right down the middle of the state, there is you really start getting into that private public land, right? Where a lot of those ranches out east are private land. They're owned, they're ranches. Where out west you have the national forest, the national land, right? Like, so it's easier to say, hey, let's set aside this lake as a state park, where it's like, no, that farmer already dammed that river up for his cow pond, back in 1802 or whenever the fuck. No, it wasn't that long ago, but you know what I mean. Oh, it wasn't that long ago because they weren't born there.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So, that's where they're all located. We talked to American Prairie Reserve, and they're starting to like buy up land out in that area and turning it into their privately public park. So, it is what it is. When you get out in those ranch lands, they're it's great land for putting cattle on because it's just flat open.
Right. And I mean, being that flat open too, I think a lot of it, and that's kind of when you look at like certain states like Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, Montana falls in the BLM land. You get a lot more of that Bureau of Land Management because it's like that's all it is. It's just like kind of not I shouldn't say nothing land, because every land has a purpose. It serves, some of those sagebrush, people don't realize how old that sagebrush plant is, even though because it's growing in those harsh conditions out there, what that takes to get to that stage or whatever, right? That's just an example of something minute. But that's why. But I also think too, as we look at this, you look at that path, and I'm sure you see it all the time. In fact, we talk about it on the listener questions all the time, is that Glacier to Yellowstone travel that people do. So when you are looking at that map, that opens up the door for that travel. When you're going between the two parks, like most of you are who come to visit the state of Montana,
Yeah.
all these are great options. They offer camping, they offer fishing, they offer hunting if you're into that. I know Matt's uncle likes to come out and hunt. I actually don't think you can hunt at state parks, just because they're not that big, really. Most of them, like you can't go to Pictograph State Park and pull a gun out. I'm sorry. It's not one of those parks. Small, little parking lot, little caves. But some of them you might be able to but I'm not 100% sure because I don't hunt state parks. They have a really good mission, I think. I'm going to read it. When you go to that FWP website, FWP is honestly, when you look at fish, wildlife, and parks in all states, I think the Montana one, they do a really good job. They're forced to do a really good job too because of the amount of people who do want to come hunt and fish here. So they really do put a lot of money and effort into that. You can get your hunting and fishing licenses on your phone now. They went to that right away, where some states are still printing it out. But their mission is to preserve and protect our state's cultural, natural, and recreational heritage for the benefit of our families, communities, and local economies. Our objectives are to provide excellent land stewardship, public safety, and service throughout recreation, innovation, and education. Our goals are to provide an extraordinary experience for our visitors and to keep our state park system strong for now and for future generations to come. Which I think is strong and solid. You hear that everywhere in the state of Montana because it is that way. You do have a lot of people who care about the land, and you hear that just through Montanans. There is a different kind of connection to the land, and it's something that's interesting that you're not hearing quite as much anymore because of the Californians, the Texans, the New Yorkers moving here. You don't hear that connection the same. It's interesting because it's like Montana, you go break bread with your neighbors, right? You're not getting that anymore. Everyone's like, oh yeah, they moved in from California. They keep to themselves. You're like, oh shit, like it's changing.
Yeah.
Time's changing up here in the Gold West.
Yeah. And that's just where they come from. It's so people dense that you do tend to keep to yourselves more. You do, I don't want to say that they don't have an appreciation for nature and land like that, because they do. That's why they moved out there,
Right. Right.
But because they're just not used to having places manage land, like say an Oregon, a Washington, a Montana, an Idaho, all of those kind of states, that they just don't care about it as much because of where they've come from. And so I get why. It's still not something I agree with, but I do at least understand why they kind of think this way and they act this way. But
yeah.
Hopefully over time they change,
Yeah, hopefully we get a couple winters where it's just -40 for 3 weeks straight. And, be like, those Houston winters weren't that bad. Let's all go back there.
Yeah,
I can go for that. I can go for a couple of those. We've had some mild winters these last few, but it's high. So this is always a good one, I think. When they talk about funding, right? Because how are our state parks funded? We talk about, I don't want to pay a fee. But when you look at Montana, Oregon, you have to go buy your state park pass. It's like a $50 fee, whatever. It's good to have if you live there because you're probably going to run into a state park where you need it.
Yeah, you can do it online and they'll mail it to you.
Right. Well, you don't even have to do that in the state of Montana unless you're a non-resident. If you're a resident here, that license plate on your vehicle You paid for it already. So somewhere within your
You
vehicle,
you can pay for it. You don't have to if you don't want to. From what I was reading is you can pay for it with your license registration.
I think it just comes out like it's part of that structure.
I mean, it could be, to be fair, I'm just reading a little blurb. Let me see what I have here.
From
But
my understanding, they don't like just by having your plate is what gets you in.
yeah,
Like,
so
so if
what
I
I'm
have,
reading here is Montana residents who pay the $9 state parks
okay,
fee with their annual vehicle registration.
I think it's one of those fees that's like built in there. Like you don't have the choice to say no. One of those fees.
Well, you know, honestly, you probably have to look for a box, and it's probably pre-checked or something, and you have
Yeah,
to
you have to
maybe you
uncheck
have
it.
to opt out. But I don't think it's a required thing. I think you probably can opt out.
But it is, that's it. That's just $9 off your vehicle registration. And you're paying
Hey, I think it's worth.
to register your vehicle in the state, you're paying based off the value of the vehicle.
Yeah,
And if so, like my Jeep, it was a 2017. I bought it in 2018. I think I paid $500 to register it for a year. Oregon, you pay like 200 for 2 years. Like
yeah.
crazy. So it comes out of that. Six of that $9, 674 goes to the state parks. 50 cents goes to the 336 fishing access sites. 39 cents goes to Virginia and Nevada City's heritage sites. And then $1.37 goes to community recreation trail grants. If you're an out-of-state visitor, it is just $6 for the day if you go to a state park.
Hey there, Reverend. I heard that you might be running dry on your sticker supplier.
Yeah, I've been looking around and I've kind of like run out of cool stickers to buy and put on water bottles and stuff.
Well, I mean, have you seen the stuff Josh has been coming out with lately?
No, I have not.
Well, he is doing some really cool stuff with the Shop LS 574. Yes, they're working with indigenous communities and making some really cool stickers. He has a really cool Buffalo Mountain sticker. There's even water bottles, hats, sweatshirts, the whole swag. And we even got a discount code for you guys. Yes, if you use Wandering Ways at Shop LS 574, you're going to be getting a discount on your next purchase. But not only that, you're going to be giving a percentage of that sale to the Little Shell Tribe, as well as they donate $1 of every sale to murdered and missing Indigenous women. So just such a cool thing going on there. You know, you use the code Wandering Ways, WANDERING and you put that in there, boom, you're getting a discount.
In need of LED lights for your vehicle? Look no further than our friends at Oxteo, keeping our vehicles well lit while on the road while looking for Bigfoot. Make sure to use code RUGARU, RUGARU, on your next set of LED lights.
So when it comes to the non-residents, when it comes to the fees, the $9 comes out of the state. The non-residents have $6 daily fees, which really is not that bad. I have Oregon plates on my cars. When I take them in, I pay the $6. It goes to a good cause. It goes to fucking somebody picking up the trash because you're too lazy to take it out yourself. When you think of some of these tourists. But you could also buy a non-resident entrance pass for $50, which I'm surprised I haven't done yet for my cars. I don't know. I'm just that guy. In reality. But kind of broken down, 43% of that money overall, the state park funds come from the vehicle registrations plus the park fees you may pay. So like at Lewis and Clark Taverns, you do pay like a tour guide fee to go on the tour. But to visit like the overall park, like the outside and stuff is fine. It's free. $3% comes from enterprises, 4% from federal money, 9% from the coal tax. 12% from motor boat and fuel decals. So whenever you have to register your boats, 18% comes from an accommodations tax, and The 11% comes from the license dollar. That's what it says. So maybe when you get your driver's license. Oh, you throw a
Yeah,
dollar.
there-
That's what it is. You can. I think when you renew your license, if I remember correctly, in Montana, when you get your driver's license, you can throw a buck towards state parks or
Oh,
some shit. Yeah. So that's probably what that one is. But yeah,
there
it's
you
kind
go.
of
I mean,
cool.
yeah, that's definitely very cool. And speaking of cool, it's time for my favorite segment, cool shit in nature. This week I feel like I got some good ones for you. We're gonna start off with a good old kitty cat crossing a river. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
yep, little bobcat realizing that the ice is a little too thin to cross, and so he just full on leaps it.
That's wild, dude. That's freaking nuts.
Yeah, so watching it from the beginning, you see him walk, you see him take a couple steps, and he's like, "Nah, something ain't right."
But why, like, why even? I guess the energy spent to do this. He just loads up.
Yeah.
It's nothing, though.
I know he makes it look. That's what's wild is, they're so they can jump. I mean, that was like what had to have been like a good 10 feet jump right there.
Yeah, but like the fact that like he sticks his paws out on the ice, kind of like,
Yeah,
oh, not gonna do that, and then he kind of brings them back, and then he's just like, all right, I guess I'll load up and just do this like with ease. Like it's not like he's like running and getting a running start to do this. He's just like dead jump. Like,
yeah,
load up and I guess I'll jump it.
yeah, and you can
Boom.
see, like they do what all cats do. Like when they're about to jump, they move their head, and that's
Yeah.
to get the depth perception of how far. So you can just see him like he just kind of figures out what he needs to do, and then just boom, does it.
He's like, oh, not that far.
Yeah. He's like, okay, that ain't gonna work, and then just boom, does the jump.
That's a good
It's
one.
incredible how athletic some of these animals are. Next one. This is wild.
Oh, well, I think I've seen this before.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you to be honest. But
Probably.
for the people that are just listening, starts off with the fox that it has like a small rodent, like a bunny rabbit, and then all of a sudden a bald eagle comes, takes it. And kudos to the fox for not letting go until a lot later.
Who's to say that's not the eagle letting go, saying, I'll get 2 meals out of one?
That very well could be if we're being totally honest here.
But then that brings up the question: is a fox part cat or part dog, and will it land on all 4 feet?
Well, I wish we had the end of this video and we could have answered this question.
Right. You never know. Like it's like, oh, like maybe he lands on all 4 feet here. He looks like he gets yeeted from afar, though.
Yeah, this is a big drop when he finally gets let go. Like that's gonna be for one, the bald eagle like goes back and catches it again, which is like wild. Um, but like if the bald eagle just let that fox fall, I don't know if it's a survival one there. That's a that's a big drop.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You get 2 meals right there. Like if the bald eagle's doing it on purpose, like, oh, like
Yeah.
I'll kill the fox and the bunny.
Yeah. I mean, I don't this one's wild to me, if I'm being
It,
honest.
it's nuts. It's cool. That's why it makes the
Yeah.
category. That's why it's here.
100%, right? That's why it's cool shit in nature. But going back to our state parks of good old Montana, um, things to do in the park. Uh, nice thing about Montana, you're starting to get more snow activities. I mean, you get some like here in Oregon, you definitely do, but they don't advertise it as much as like Montana with the camping, boating, hiking, biking, cross country skiing, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, that kind of stuff. And then there's all the cultural and historical stuff to do too. But if you go to that park, what I actually really kind of like about it is if you go to the
FWP.
fwp.mt.gov, hit the activities, it'll tell you all the activities, but it will tell you which parks are best to do it in. So let's say that you want to go cross country skiing. You go down, find cross country skiing, you hit the state parks with cross country skiing tab, and all of a sudden there's 5 parks for you to choose from Cooney, Lake Elmo, Lone Pine, Rosebud, Battlefield, and Spring Meadow Lake.
Oh,
So
Cooney. I
it
didn't
really
go.
helps out. Like you're like, I'm gonna be in Montana. I want to go cross country skiing while I'm there. Where can I do that? Boom, hit the state parks, and it tells you if you want to hike, boom, it has the tab for you. You want to go boating, boom, has it. Cultural and historical stuff, boom, has it. So
I'm kind of interested because you think Cooney, like I said, it's an hour away from Billings. That's where we would go fishing nightly in some summers. You know what I mean? And I've gone ice fishing there. I haven't seen a lot of cross country skiing there, and then it makes me think like, where would you go there? And then I'm like, oh, probably out on the lake because it's frozen, right? Well, couldn't you go out on Salmon Lake over here?
I mean,
When
if
it's frozen?
if it's frozen,
Yeah. So I think
I
you
mean, I
go
don't
cross
know.
country.
I haven't spent a lot of winters in the area, so I
Right.
mean, if it's fairly open and then you get like a good amount of snow, that's really all you'd need, like enough for,
Yeah.
like a decent trail to cross country ski on. Just because you
Yeah.
can cross country ski there doesn't mean a lot of people cross country ski there.
True. And then, like you're saying, kind of a groomed trail. It makes, I guess, yeah, interesting. That's just interesting how it is. How like what parks I guess made that list and which ones didn't. Like Lake Elmo. Lake Elmo makes sense because in Billings a lot of people do cross country ski there, but they also I see a lot of people cross country ski on the golf courses.
Yeah, golf courses are always kind of, because again, they're usually more open.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not like you golf during the winter when it's covered in snow. So, it's definitely a lot easier. And usually they're close to towns. So,
Yeah.
you can get in your bi-weekly cross country ski workout in. But, it'd be like the difference between you're walking through the park like all day during the week, and then you're like, you know what? I want to go for that hike this weekend at this park. It'd be the same idea. It's like, all right, this weekend let's go to Cooney to check out the cross country skiing and just switch it up, get out, new area, out in nature type deal. So
I guess the Billings people need something to do, huh?
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they need. Um,
Nice. No,
but yeah, so those Montana, ton of state parks. I mean 55. A lot of cool ones. Again, there's a lot of stuff to do. We're not going to be able to touch all of these parks. And
no.
we would just be here. This would be like a full day of a podcast, and I don't think anyone wants to listen to that. But we are actually really getting close to the end of our time, so it's time for the final words, my guy. So, final words.
Well, looking at this map, kind of wrapping it up here, they have it broken on that on stateparks.com, which goes through all the USA parks and states. They have it broken up into Glacier Country, kind of which is your northwest area, your Gold West Country, which is kind of your southwest Montana, your Yellowstone Country, which is kind of Billings to Bozeman, Russell Country, which is kind of that central Montana area, the Missouri Country, your northeast, and then your Custer Country, your north or your southeast, which you've kind of driven through on the way to the Badlands. So if, when you're in those areas, they kind of lot to see, lot to do, check out as you break up Montana. Looking at some of these state parks
from ones I have not been to, Makoshika, like I said, that one hits the top of the list for me of like, because it's where it's at. It's hard to fucking get to. It's in the middle of nowhere. But now that I'm going to live in the middle of nowhere, it'll be a lot easier to get to. So I want to definitely check that one out. I hear great things. I think I would like to also check out. I've been there before as a kid, but the Lewis and Clark Caverns, I do want to go back. So if there's anyone who wants to come with me, check out some caves, let me know. We'll go do it. It'll be fun. But, those are some that hit the top of the list for me. That Anaconda Smelter, I believe now you see drive on the interstate, brand new sign this year, it's a National Heritage Site. So got a little upgrade there, just like things do in Montana. You also will see, I guess, driving across Montana, you'll see a lot of museums, a lot of signs for museums. And these museums have, I think in the 70s, my dad said the state of Montana put out like a grant basically to these cities and to these say, hey, go create these museums and just grab all your farm implements. Just take them off the fields. Don't let them rust out there. Let them sit in our museums. Because there's a lot of museums too. When Mark says it's a lot of historicness, a lot of this, like there's a lot of stuff like that. If you're into it, come check it out. But really, I think what it comes down to is the natural beauty beyond the 2 wonderful national parks that we have, the national forests we have. These state parks are just as good. You've been to quite a few probably, and you don't even know it sometimes too here in the state of Montana. And if you're just want to take a road break, hit Prairie Dog State Park. Why not? It's always a good one. That's it.
Yeah. 100%. Reverend's final words of wisdom. Stay beautiful, everybody. Can't tell you how excited or thankful I am that you guys listen all the way through, listen to all the other episodes, all that other fun stuff. Fall is coming. The weather's going to change. The leaves are going to start changing colors. It's different kind of adventures that we got coming up. So that's the best part about the changing of the seasons is the adventures change for a little bit, which is always kind of exciting. Switch it up from the usual that you've been doing, but all that other fun jazz. But with that being said, peace out, everybody.
Bye.